welcome back to the channel and Merry Christmas. Today's the day that we find out whether all my hard work on the Audi S5 has come to nothing or whether we have fixed the old girl and she's going to run sweet as a nut. So if you've been following along with me, you know that I purchased an Audi S5 that was a bit poorly. The previous owner had advertised her as having a massive misfire and actually said that she probably needed an engine rebuild. Well, hopefully I've proved him wrong today, and we're going to find out in this video whether she runs sweet as a nut or whether I've bought myself an absolute nightmare. But all will be revealed as we delve deep into this car and see if she's going to run. First of all, we need to make sure she'll stop as good as she goes, because if I can't stop, then it's going to be a very short test drive. So let's get into it, shall we? Here she is, ladies and gents. Looking splendid in white, if I do say so myself. I love the white with the black wheels. So talking of wheels, we need to get those wheels off and get the brakes serviced. So that's the first thing we're going to do, and then we'll get her out on the road. But you know, I can't wait. If you're a petrol head like me, you've probably grown up in the UK watching all these American shows with V8s everywhere. Everyone's got a V8, but they're quite rare in the UK. So it's quite an achievement to own one in the UK, and not many people get the opportunity. So I'm hoping I'm one of the lucky few, and this is an absolute beast. If you don't know, this is the 4.2 litre V8 Audi, naturally aspirated, 350 horsepower German muscle car. Das Auto is so beautiful. So yeah, let's get into it and let's see what we've got, shall we? Right, so finally the parts have arrived. So what have we got in here? We've got a couple of booties, a couple of pins, some barely sealed grease. Oh, that's been leaking, lovely. And then they look like some new bolts. Maybe they're stretch bolts, but they've got a bit of Loctite on the end there. They're pretty good. So it's time to take the wheel off. I bought a new Gudga, just especially for this car. Now I had to get the caliper off as I'd had to move the car, so I popped it back on. So here I'm putting the boots in. I filled them with grease before I put them on, but in hindsight, I think putting them into the caliper first and then filling them with grease is a better way around of doing it. So once you've done that, I advise you switch out your gloves so that you're not getting any grease onto your pads or discs. Then it's simply a case of just putting the caliper back on, connecting the new bolts up behind and putting the tension retaining clip back in. Here's me doing the other side. This side I did figure out that putting the boots in first before putting the grease in was a better way around to do things. It's quite a quick job to do. Probably took me no more than half an hour to do both sides and get them all buttoned back up again. There's me putting on a new clean pair of gloves, following my own good advice, and yep, just talking everything back up to spec. And that's one job down. The moment has come. Right, let's get a belt on so we're not fiddling about with that. Diddle-diddle-um. Right. Misfire. Yes. engine management lights flashing now. She's a bit on and off, so I'm wondering if that's maybe dirty plugs from where she's been misfiring. Right, stamp on the pedal. No, still pulling to the right. We're not quite there. It does put a smile on your face. Oh my god. That V8 roar. Something else. Right, let's get back and plug her in, see what she's saying. Right folks, we're back from the test drive. Do you know what? It was okay. It seemed to hesitate a little bit, but I did have the engine management light flick on for a second and then the EPC light flicked on. So I'll have a little look in the logs and just see if there's anything that I'm concerned about. I know I've got a bit of a issue with a knock sensor. It gets a signal too small error every now and then, which is to be expected on an old engine like this. The sensors just get tired and worn out, but there's definitely no knock, so that's okay. Right, so here we are then. I want to look at engine, please. And I want to look at fault codes, please. Oh, we got a fault. Oh, it's the knock sensor. Yep, I was kind of expecting that, to be fair. Right, I'm not particularly worried about that. It's happening at low speed as well. So that's not a great drama. Right, so, well, I think that's quite a good result considering. The engine seems to be running sweet, although I did buy a smoke tester, so I can at least check the vacuum on the engine and make sure I kind of connected everything back up properly. Never used one of them before, so that'll be interesting. Also, the brakes do need bleeding. It tends to pull slightly to the left now, which would make sense because I did try to bleed the brakes before I took it out, as any sensible person would do, but the right bleed nipple didn't seem to be passing any fluid. So I've purchased a new bleed nipple and I'll pop that on the right hand side, and then I'll quickly take you through how to bleed the brakes. I won't do all of them, but I'll show you how to connect on the brake bleeding kit that I bought from China. Give you a quick demo just in case any of you come to try to use one in the future. So now the bleed nipple's replaced, we're going to crack open the lid of the reservoir, see how much we've got in there. When you get these, you'll have a rubber gasket you put in there, which will allow that to seal down on top of the reservoir. Screw that up. And then on here, you'll see there's a gauge. Now you just need to pump this up. Now I like to pump mine up to about 15 PSI, which is what, 1 bar. So, a couple more for good measure. There we are. Then you just want to watch that gauge just to see if it drops. If it's not dropping, then you've got a good seal. Last but not least, you normally get given like a little catch can. So you connect that end to the bleed nipple and then you can watch the fluid coming out through the pipe. And then you just want to watch until there's no bubbles. So let's do that. Now this is going to be quite hard to film without getting in the way, but essentially you connect your can to your bleed nipple, and then you just crack your nipple and you watch as the fluid comes around. Okay, that's running clear. And then just disconnect. Try and hold your pipe clear because there'll be pressure inside the bottle. Which is why I've got a bit of cardboard down, because otherwise you end up with brake fluid all over your floor, which is never nice. Right, let's just make sure that's as tight as I would like. So there we go, simple as that. Haven't really lost much pressure from there, only lost a few mil of fluid. Once you've finished, release the pressure. So it's all gone, and then you can remove your cap. There's plenty of fluid in there, probably a little bit too much, so I'm just going to get a syringe and suck a little bit of that back out. There we go, as easy as that. It's a great little tool, don't cost a lot now. It used to cost like 80-90 quid. I think I got that for like £30 or something cheap and cheerful. Does the job. You can do the job on your own. If you were bleeding all the brakes, I've done both front brakes, but at some point I will bleed the rears. I've got some pins coming for the calipers at the rear, so I'll give them a quick service too. Considering how bad the front pins were, I'm expecting the rear pins to be just as bad. So at some point I'll bleed all four. And the order to bleed them in is basically you just always start as furthest away from the pedal. So whether you're in a left-hand or a right-hand drive car, just start as far away from your pedal as you can. So in my case, right-hand drive car, I'd start on the rear left, then I'd do the rear right, then the front left, then the front right. So I'll get round to doing that at some point. But at the moment, I think this will be good enough to go for another test drive. Right, test drive part 2. I've left the estate and I've just put myself on a bit of dual carriageway, so we'll see what she can do. Scoot round the side of this truck. Put it in sports mode. So we've got a bit of dual carriageway, so let's go! Oh. And she's off. We've got brakes. Still a bit vague, but the tracking is out and I've got that booked in for a track in a couple of days, so I think that might fix it. But for now, let's see if she pulls left or right. It's an improvement, because before, when I jumped on the brakes, it was like you were being catapulted to the right. Now it just sort of squirms ever so slightly and wants to rotate. So I think that's the rear, personally. Yeah. Let's get her back and we'll see if we can't fix the rear brakes. I mean, they might just need a bleed. I could give them a quick bleed, couldn't I? Yeah, giddy up. Well, there we go. I think test drive number 2 was far more successful than test drive number 1. The good old Italian tune-up seemed to have worked an absolute treat on this old girl. So the engine is running sweet as a nut. I mean, that V8 roar as you rumble down the road is addictive. And I could drive like that all day long if I could just afford the fuel. Chuffed to bits with that. For £1,000, I think I've got an absolute bargain. I mean, look at her. She's an absolute beaut. And now she runs as good as she looks. I wish I could say the same for me. Plan of action now is to try and fix the pull under braking. She pulls slightly to the left, but not as bad as when she pulled to the right. It could be the rear brakes. I've got some pins on order for those, so I can service them and I'll do a bleed. I've also got her booked in for a tracking, so when I get her up on the ramp, I'll be able to see if she's got any bushings that need to be replaced, because it could be something along those lines. But I'm looking forward to getting her up in the air and having a good look underneath. if it needs suspension, then I suppose I'll be doing suspension. I think it's worth spending the money on the Gold Girl, but I think I've done rather well for £1,000. If that's not worth a like and subscribe, probably nothing else is. But it just goes to show that, you know, there's a diamond in the rough, and anyone can find one if you're willing to take the risk. So I think this risk has paid off so far, so I'm quite pleased with myself. And at some point I'll get around to how much I've spent on it so far, but that's for another episode. So join me next week and we'll dive a little bit deeper into the S5 and see what she looks like underneath. Until then, don't do anything I wouldn't do.